Look, I'm about to show you how ancient dead guys figured out confidence 2,000 years ago while you're out here refreshing Instagram for validation. Wild, right? Here's the thing nobody tells you. Confidence isn't about being loud. It's about being unshakable. And the Stoics? They mastered the art of walking through chaos like it was a light drizzle. Marcus Aurelius was literally running an empire while barbarians were knocking at the door, and this guy was journaling about inner peace. Meanwhile, we lose our minds when Wi-Fi cuts out during a Zoom call. Today, I'm breaking down 11 Stoic rules that will transform you into someone so mentally bulletproof, life's curveballs will just bounce off. We're talking about the kind of confidence that doesn't need to announce itself, the kind that makes people wonder what you know that they don't. And before you ask, no, this isn't about becoming an emotionless robot. It's about becoming so grounded in who you are that external chaos becomes background noise. Ready? Let's make you dangerously confident. Rule 1. React to nothing. Okay, let's start with the nuclear option, the rule that'll make you seem like you've got superpowers. React to nothing. Now, before you think I'm telling you to become a statue, hear me out. Epictetus, who went from literal slave to legendary philosopher, said something that'll rearrange your brain. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Simple words, devastating impact. Think about your last argument. Someone said something stupid, you fired back, they escalated, you escalated, and suddenly you're both in a screaming match about who forgot to buy milk. Congratulations, you just gave your power away for free. You let someone else's words control your emotional state, your blood pressure, and probably the next 3 hours of your day. The Stoics understood something we've completely forgotten. Your reaction is the only thing you actually control, not what Karen from accounting says about you, not whether your post gets likes, not whether someone cuts you off in traffic, just your response. Here's what happens when you master this. People think you're either enlightened or slightly terrifying. Both work in your favor. When someone tries to push your buttons and you just don't respond the way they expect, their entire strategy crumbles. It's like watching someone throw a punch at water. Satisfying doesn't even cover it. Marcus Aurelius put it perfectly. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. The Emperor of Rome, literal emperor, is telling you that his power came from mastering his reactions, not from his armies. Let that sink in. But here's the practical part, because I know you're thinking, cool quote, but how do I actually do this when my boss is screaming at me? Here's the trick. Create a pause. Just 1 second. Between stimulus and response, insert a breath. In that micro moment, you reclaim your power. The angry email? Read it. Breathe. Then respond. The insult? Hear it. Breathe. Then choose whether it deserves acknowledgement. This isn't suppression, it's selection. You're not bottling emotions, you're deciding which ones get to drive the car. Big difference. And watch what happens to your confidence when you realize that nothing, and I mean nothing, can make you react unless you permit it. Traffic? Can't touch you. Criticism? Meaningless unless you validate it. Failure? Just data. You become unshakable because you've removed the strings people use to puppet you around. But here's where it gets even wilder, because not reacting is just the foundation. The next rule? It's about controlling the one thing that determines literally everything about your life.
Rule 2. Control your perceptions. All right, buckle up, because this one's going to flip your entire worldview upside down. Nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing, is inherently good or bad until you decide it is. That's not motivational fluff, that's hardcore Stoic philosophy, and it's backed by how your brain actually works. Marcus Aurelius dropped this gem. The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it. Translation: reality is neutral. Your brain is the one slapping labels on everything like an overeager intern organizing files. Let me paint you a picture. You get fired. Is that good or bad? Your immediate answer is probably bad, obviously. But what if that firing pushes you to start the business you've been dreaming about? What if it removes you from a toxic environment that was slowly destroying your mental health? What if it forces you to develop skills that make you unstoppable later? Suddenly, bad isn't so clear-cut anymore. The Stoics called this the art of perception. Epictetus said, "It's not things that disturb us, but our interpretation of their significance." Your broke friend who says he's in between opportunities gets this. Your anxious friend who calls the same situation complete failure doesn't. Same event, different perception, completely different emotional experience. Here's the confidence hack hidden in this rule. When you realize you're the one assigning meaning to events, you become ungovernable. Someone rejects you? That's not, "I'm not good enough." That's, "We weren't aligned." Company passes on your idea? Not, "I'm a failure." It's, "They're not ready for this yet." See what just happened? Same external event, but you kept your power. Seneca was obsessed with this. He'd look at poverty and say, "That's just lacking money, not lacking worth." He'd look at exile and call it a change of scenery. The man took everything society said was terrible and just reassigned the meaning. Savage. But let's get practical, because I can see you thinking, this sounds like toxic positivity with a Latin accent. It's not. This isn't about pretending everything's great. It's about accurate perception. When bad things happen, and they will, you look at them clearly without the dramatic soundtrack your mind wants to add. Lost your job? Accurate perception. I no longer work at that company and I need to find income. Dramatic perception. My life is over. I'm worthless. Everything's falling apart. One of these helps you move forward. The other paralyzes you. Choose wisely. Here's your exercise. For the next week, every time something bad happens, ask yourself, what else could this mean? Train your brain to find alternative interpretations. That traffic jam, maybe it prevented you from being in an accident up ahead. That rejection, maybe it cleared space for something better. That criticism, maybe it's highlighting a real weakness you can fix. You're not being delusional, you're being strategic with your perception. And when you master this, confidence becomes automatic because you've removed the threat from most situations. They're just events now, neutral, waiting for you to assign meaning. And you're going to assign meanings that serve you, not destroy you. Speaking of assigning meaning, the Stoics had something absolutely ruthless to say about your emotions, and it's probably the opposite of everything you've been told.
Rule 3. Your emotions are not facts. Oh, this one's going to sting for a lot of you. Ready? Your feelings are not evidence of anything except that you're having feelings. Let me say it louder for the people in the back. Your emotions are not facts. I know, we live in an era where my truth and how I feel are treated like sacred gospel. But the Stoics would have laughed at that. Not because emotions don't matter, they do, but because mistaking them for reality is how you end up making catastrophically bad decisions. Epictetus was brutal about this. Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them. Your emotion isn't telling you what's real, it's telling you what your current interpretation is. Huge difference. Here's a scenario. You send a text to someone you care about. They don't respond for 3 hours. Your brain immediately goes to, "They hate me. I did something wrong. This relationship is over." You feel anxiety, maybe panic. That feeling is real, like physiologically you're actually experiencing it. But is it factual? Did they actually say they hate you? Nope. Turns out they were in a meeting. Your emotion was real. The story it was based on? Complete fiction. The Stoics trained themselves to separate emotional reactions from factual assessment. They'd feel the emotion, they weren't robots, but they wouldn't let it dictate their response. It's like acknowledging that it's raining without deciding that rain means the universe hates you. Marcus Aurelius used to write to himself, "How much more harmful are the consequences of anger and grief than the circumstances that aroused them?" Think about that. The event might be minor, but your emotional reaction to it can destroy relationships, opportunities, and your own peace of mind. The emotion causes more damage than the actual problem. Here's where confidence comes in. Confident people feel their emotions and then fact-check them. Insecure people feel their emotions and accept them as truth. You feel like an imposter at work? That's imposter syndrome, not evidence you don't belong. You feel like everyone's judging you at the gym? That's social anxiety, not a reflection of reality. Everyone's too worried about their own workout to care about yours. You feel like you'll never succeed? That's fear talking, not your future. Seneca had this wild practice where he'd deliberately imagine worst-case scenarios to rob them of their emotional power. Lost everything? I could live with less. Betrayed by friends? I'm sufficient unto myself. He was essentially exposure therapying his own emotions, teaching himself that feelings are visitors, not permanent residents. Practical application time. Next time you feel a strong negative emotion, try this Stoic technique. Describe the situation without any emotional language. My proposal was rejected, instead of, I'm a complete failure and everyone thinks I'm stupid. See how different those are. One is factual, one is your emotional interpretation masquerading as fact. And here's the kicker. When you stop treating your emotions as evidence, they lose their grip on you. You can feel anxious and still take action. You can feel scared and still move forward. You can feel uncertain and still make decisions. The emotion becomes information, not a command. This is what dangerously confident people understand. They feel everything you feel. They just don't obey it blindly. Now, if you think that one was intense, wait until you hear what the Stoics said about other people's opinions of you. This next rule will either liberate you completely or make you uncomfortable. Probably both.
Rule 4. Other people's opinions are none of your business. Let's address the elephant in the room. You care way too much about what other people think, and it's destroying your confidence from the inside out. The Stoics had a radical take on this. Marcus Aurelius literally wrote, I have often wondered how it is that every man loves himself more than all the rest of men, but yet sets less value on his own opinion of himself than on the opinion of others. Read that again. You love yourself more than you love random strangers, but you'll value their opinion of you over your own. Make it make sense. Here's the thing that'll blow your mind. Most people's opinions of you are based on about 5% of who you actually are. They see a snapshot, project their own insecurities onto it, and form a judgment. And you're over here losing sleep about it? Come on. Epictetus was even more direct. If someone speaks badly of you, consider whether what they say is true. If it is, correct yourself. If it isn't, laugh and move on. That's it. That's the whole formula. Is the criticism valid? Use it. Is it baseless? Discard it. But don't you dare internalize opinions from people who don't even have the full picture. Think about who you're seeking validation from. Your aunt who's never taken a risk in her life but has opinions about your business? Your high school classmate who measures success by Instagram followers? The internet troll whose greatest accomplishment is being angry in comment sections? These are your judges? Really? The Stoics understood something we've forgotten. Other people's opinions are actually statements about themselves, not about you. When someone calls you too ambitious, they're revealing their own relationship with ambition. When someone says you're too confident, they're exposing their own insecurity. It's projection all the way down. Marcus Aurelius ran an entire empire and still had critics. Seneca was one of the wisest men in Rome, and people talked trash about him constantly. Epictetus taught thousands and had detractors. If they couldn't please everyone, what makes you think you can? Here's your confidence upgrade. The moment you stop auditioning for people's approval, you become magnetic. People can sense when you don't need their validation, and paradoxically, it makes them value you more. It's the same reason everyone wants to be friends with the person who doesn't try too hard to be liked. But let's get tactical, because I know someone's thinking, what about professional feedback? What about constructive criticism? Great question. The Stoics weren't advocating for ignoring all feedback. They were saying to evaluate it rationally, not emotionally.
Feedback from someone with expertise in your field who has your best interests at heart? Consider it carefully. Random criticism from someone with no context, no expertise, and no stake in your success? File it under irrelevant data and move on. Seneca used to say, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a person perfected without trials." But notice, he's talking about friction that polishes, not random scratches that damage. Learn the difference. Here's your new operating system. You have one job: to live according to your values, to pursue your goals with integrity, and to become the person you respect. That's it. If people applaud, cool. If they criticize, irrelevant. Your job isn't to manage their perceptions, it's to manage your character. And when you truly internalize this, when you deeply understand that other people's opinions are literally none of your business unless you make them your business, you unlock a level of confidence that seems almost supernatural to everyone else. You start making decisions based on what's right, not what's popular. You start speaking truth instead of what people want to hear. You start living instead of performing. But here's what the Stoics knew that most people never figure out. Confidence isn't just about what you think, it's about what you do. And this next rule will change how you approach action forever.
Rule 5. Focus only on what you control. All right, here's where we separate the adults from the eternal victims. This rule is the backbone of Stoic philosophy, and it's embarrassingly simple. Focus on what you control. Ignore what you don't. Sounds obvious, right? Yet you're out here stressed about the economy, the weather, what your ex is doing with their life, whether your neighbor likes your lawn, if Mercury is in retrograde, none of which you can control. Zero, zilch, nada. Epictetus opened his entire handbook with this concept. Some things are within our power, while others are not. He then proceeded to build an entire philosophy around this one distinction. Why? Because this is the cheat code to mental peace and unshakable confidence. Here's what you actually control: your actions, your effort, your response, your character, your decisions, your interpretation of events. That's basically it. Everything else? Not your department. You don't control outcomes, you control effort. You don't control how people perceive you, you control how you present yourself. You don't control the market, you control your preparation for it. You don't control other people's choices, you control your boundaries. Marcus Aurelius was obsessed with this distinction. He'd literally remind himself, you have power over your mind, not outside events. The man was emperor and still recognized he couldn't control everything. Meanwhile, you're losing your mind because someone didn't like your tweet. Here's where confidence enters the equation. When you stop wasting energy on things outside your control, you have exponentially more energy for things within your control. And success, real, tangible success, comes from doubling down on what you can actually influence. Let me give you a modern example. You want a promotion. What don't you control? Whether your boss gives it to you, whether the company has budget, whether office politics favor someone else, whether the economy affects hiring freezes. What do you control? The quality of your work, your professional development, your attitude, your initiative, how you communicate your value, your network, your backup plan. Guess which person gets promoted, the one constantly complaining about what's unfair, or the one maximizing every controllable variable? Exactly. Seneca wrote extensively about this. He'd say things like, wild animals run from the dangers they actually see, and once they have escaped them, worry no more. We, however, are tormented alike by what is past and what is to come. You're literally suffering from imaginary future scenarios and unchangeable past events, both outside your control, both stealing your peace. Here's your practical filter. Before you stress about anything, ask yourself, can I control this? If yes, make a plan and execute. If no, let it go. Sounds simple because it is. We just overcomplicate it because humans love drama. Can't control the traffic? Control your departure time and your podcast playlist.
Can't control your genetics? Control your habits and lifestyle. Can't control market crashes? Control your diversification and emergency fund. Can't control aging? Control how you age through health choices and mindset. The Stoics would even apply this to death, the ultimate uncontrollable. Instead of fearing it, they'd focus on living well right now. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." Not morbid, practical. Death's coming whether you stress about it or not, so control what you can, living with purpose today. And here's what happens to your confidence when you master this. You become anti-fragile. Nassim Taleb's term, Stoic concept. Things that are outside your control can't break you because you never depended on them in the first place. Market crashes, rejections, setbacks, other people's decisions, they might be inconvenient, but they can't touch your core because your core is built on what you control. People will call you lucky when things go well, not realizing you just maximized every controllable variable while they were busy complaining about uncontrollable ones. Let them think it's luck. You'll know it's strategic focus. And speaking of focus, the Stoics had something powerful to say about time, the one resource you're definitely wasting right now. This next rule will make you rethink your entire schedule.
Rule 6. Treat time like it's actually limited, because it is. We need to talk about your relationship with time, because you're treating it like it's infinite, and it's absolutely not. Seneca wrote an entire essay called On the Shortness of Life, and it reads like he hacked into your screen time report. His basic argument? Life isn't short, you're just wasting it on nonsense. Brutal, but accurate. He wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." Think about your day yesterday. How many hours were spent scrolling? How many on activities you won't remember next week? How many on people who drain you? How many on worries about things that never happened? The Stoics treated time as their most valuable asset, more precious than money, status, or possessions, because it's the only thing you can never get back. You can rebuild wealth, repair relationships, and recover health, but that hour you spent arguing with strangers on the internet about something you won't care about tomorrow, gone forever. Marcus Aurelius would remind himself constantly, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think, not as a depressing thought, but as a clarity tool. If you knew you had limited time, which you do, would you spend it on this? Would this matter? Would you care about this petty drama? Here's where confidence connects. Confident people are ruthlessly protective of their time because they understand its value. They say no without guilt. They cut conversations short when they're unproductive. They eliminate activities that don't align with their goals or values. They look selfish to people who waste time and focused to people who value it. Epictetus put it simply, don't live as if you have endless years ahead of you. Death overshadows you. While you're alive and able, be good. Translation, stop postponing your life. Stop saying someday and eventually and when things settle down. Things never settle down. Act now. Let me ask you something uncomfortable. If you continue spending your time exactly as you do now, will you be proud of the life you've lived in 5 years? 10. If the answer is no, why are you still doing it? The Stoics would call this voluntary slavery. You're imprisoning yourself in patterns that don't serve you. Seneca also said something that should haunt you. People are frugal in guarding their personal property, but as soon as it comes to squandering time, they're most wasteful of the one thing in which it is right to be stingy. You'll drive across town to save $5 on gas, but waste 3 hours on TikTok without blinking. Make it make sense. Here's your confidence shift. When you start valuing your time, other people do too. When you stop being available 24/7, people respect your boundaries. When you stop attending every social obligation, the ones you do attend become meaningful. When you stop saying yes to everything, your yes becomes valuable. Practical application? Time audit. Track your next 3 days honestly, every hour. Then look at it through a Stoic lens. What here serves my goals, values, or genuine well-being? What's just happening to me? The difference between those two categories is where your life is leaking. The Stoics would do something wild.
They'd meditate on death regularly. Not morbidly, but practically. Memento mori. Remember, you will die. It's not depressing, it's the ultimate focus tool. Suddenly, that argument about whose turn it is to do the dishes seems less important. That grudge you've been holding seems petty. That dream you've been postponing seems urgent. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Think of yourself as dead. You have lived your life. Now take what's left and live it properly." In other words, every day is bonus time. Stop squandering it on autopilot. When you truly internalize that your time is finite, that you have maybe 30,000 days on this planet if you're lucky, and you've already burned through thousands, you become a different person. You become someone who doesn't tolerate time wasters. You become someone who pursues what matters with urgency. You become someone whose confidence comes from knowing you're spending your life currency on things that actually matter. But here's the plot twist: the Stoics didn't just think about death to appreciate life. They actively practiced something that sounds insane but will transform how you experience everything. Ready for this?
Rule 7. Practice voluntary discomfort. Okay, this one's going to sound counterintuitive in a world obsessed with comfort, convenience, and luxury, but stay with me. The Stoics deliberately made themselves uncomfortable to build resilience and confidence. Seneca would sleep on a hard floor occasionally. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor of Rome, would wear simple clothes and live modestly despite having access to every luxury imaginable. Epictetus taught students to fast, endure cold, and practice poverty intentionally. Why? Were they masochists? No, they understood something profound. If you only experience comfort, discomfort destroys you when it inevitably arrives. Seneca explained it perfectly. Set aside a certain number of days during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself the while, "Is this the condition that I feared?" He's literally saying, practice the thing you're afraid of, so when it actually happens, you realize it's not that bad. Think about your fears. Losing money? Fast for a day and realize hunger is manageable. Losing status? Wear your worst clothes out and realize people barely notice. Losing comfort? Sleep on the floor and realize you survive just fine. This is exposure therapy before psychology had a name for it. Here's the confidence multiplier. When you voluntarily endure discomfort, forced discomfort loses its power over you. You're not afraid of job loss if you've practiced living on less. You're not afraid of social rejection if you've practiced being unpopular. You're not afraid of physical challenges if you've trained your body to handle stress. Modern application? This is why cold showers are having a moment, why fasting is popular again, why people are into minimalism. We've accidentally rediscovered what the Stoics knew. Comfort makes you fragile. Discomfort makes you resilient. Marcus Aurelius would begin each day by telling himself, "Today I will encounter rude people, ungrateful people, violent people." Not pessimism, preparation. He was preloading discomfort so nothing caught him off guard. When someone was actually rude, his response was, "Yep, called it, moving on." But here's what most people miss. This isn't about suffering for suffering's sake. It's about expanding your comfort zone so that more of life becomes manageable. It's about proving to yourself that you're capable of more than you think. You know that voice in your head that says, "I can't handle that"? Voluntary discomfort is how you prove it wrong. Can't wake up early? Do it for a week and realize you can. Can't work out? Do it anyway and realize you're stronger than you thought. Can't have difficult conversations? Have them and realize you survive. The Stoics called this premeditation of malorum, premeditation of evils. Sounds dark, but it's genius. Imagine the worst-case scenario, really sit with it, and realize two things. Number one, it's probably not as bad as your anxiety makes it seem. And number two, you'd find a way to handle it. Seneca would ask himself, what if I lost everything tomorrow? Then he'd genuinely answer, I'd still have my mind, my character, my ability to work. I'd be fine. When you've mentally rehearsed losing everything and found peace with it, nothing can threaten you. That's ultimate confidence. Practical exercise. Pick one voluntary discomfort this week. Skip a meal.
Take a cold shower, leave your phone at home for a day, sleep without your usual comforts, have that difficult conversation you've been avoiding. The specifics don't matter. What matters is proving to yourself that discomfort doesn't destroy you. And here's what happens. Every time you voluntarily step into discomfort and emerge intact, your confidence compounds. You build evidence that you're resilient. You collect proof that you're capable. You become someone who doesn't fear challenges because you've trained for them. The modern world wants to sell you comfort. The Stoics are offering you strength. Choose wisely. Now, if voluntary discomfort builds resilience, this next rule builds something even more powerful, and it's probably the most misunderstood Stoic principle of all.
Rule 8. Amore fati. Love your fate. All right, we're getting into advanced Stoicism now. This concept, amore fati, might sound like Stockholm Syndrome at first, but stick with me because it's possibly the most liberating mindset shift you'll ever make. Amore fati, love of fate. Not just acceptance of what happens, actual love for it. Nietzsche made this phrase famous, but it's pure Stoicism. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it." Whatever life throws at you, success, failure, joy, tragedy, you transform it into fuel. You don't just tolerate your circumstances, you embrace them as exactly what you needed. I know what you're thinking. Love the bad stuff? That's toxic positivity on steroids. Nope, it's actually the opposite. It's radical acceptance without the victim mentality. Here's the distinction. Toxic positivity says, everything happens for a reason, so pretend it's all good. Amore fati says, this happened, it's neutral. I'm choosing to find the advantage in it because that's the powerful move. Marcus Aurelius practiced this daily. He'd write things like, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Translation, the obstacle is the path forward. That thing blocking you, it's not delaying your journey, it is the journey. Lost your job? That's not a detour from your success story, it's chapter 3. Relationship ended? Not a failure, a redirection. Got rejected? Not a setback, a filter saving you from the wrong opportunity. This isn't delusion, it's strategic reframing based on a truth the Stoics understood. You can't control what happens, but you can control how you use it. Epictetus said, don't demand that things happen as you wish, but wish that they happen as they do happen, and you will go on well. Read that carefully. He's not saying settle for less. He's saying that resistance to reality is suffering, and acceptance of reality is power. Think about how much energy you waste resisting what already is. This shouldn't have happened. It's not fair. Why me? All valid feelings, but strategically useless. That event already happened. Your resistance doesn't change it, it just drains you. Amore fati says, this happened. It's my reality now. How do I make this work for me? That mindset shift from victim to strategist is where confidence lives. Let me give you a real example. You train for months for a competition and get injured right before. Non-Stoic response, this is the worst thing ever, all my work was wasted, I'm so unlucky. Amore fati response, this injury is teaching me patience, forcing me to learn proper recovery, and will make me more cautious and durable long term. This setback is actually setting up my comeback. Same event, completely different trajectory. One destroys confidence, the other builds it. Seneca loved this concept. He wrote, a setback has often cleared the way for greater prosperity. Many things have fallen only to rise to more exalted heights. He understood that sometimes life tears things down to build something better, but only if you cooperate with the process instead of fighting it. Here's your practical application. Next time something bad happens, give yourself 5 minutes to feel whatever you feel. Anger, disappointment, frustration. Feel it fully. Then ask, if this is exactly what needed to happen for my ultimate benefit, why might that be true? Force your brain to find the advantage. There's always one. Always. The relationship that ended, maybe you needed self-sufficiency. The business that failed, maybe you needed those lessons before the bigger opportunity.
The criticism you received, maybe you needed that perspective adjustment. Find the why, and you transform poison into medicine. Marcus Aurelius had this wild perspective. You're like a soldier who leaves the battle because you don't like the noise. You've got to do your job. Life is chaotic, unfair, and unpredictable. That's not a bug, it's a feature. Your job isn't to make it perfect, it's to perform well within the chaos. When you practice Amore fati, something magical happens. You stop being brittle. Life's punches don't shatter you because you've learned to roll with them. No, better than that, you've learned to redirect them. Like a martial artist using an opponent's force against them, you use life's challenges as momentum. And here's the confidence boost. When you genuinely love your fate, all of it, the messy parts included, you become unstoppable. You're not hoping for perfect circumstances anymore. You're ready for whatever comes because you've internalized that you'll make it work regardless. That's not confidence, that's certainty. People will ask you, how are you so calm when everything's falling apart? You'll smile and think of Marcus Aurelius. The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it. You've chosen thoughts that make you resilient. But loving your fate is one thing. The Stoics also had a practice that ensured they never took it for granted. This next rule will change how you see everything you have.
Rule 9. Practice negative visualization. Okay, before you think I'm about to turn you into a pessimist, let me explain why this is actually the secret to deep gratitude and unshakable confidence. The Stoics regularly practiced something called negative visualization, imagining losing the things they valued most: your health, your relationships, your possessions, your status, everything. Sounds depressing, right? It's actually the opposite. It's the antidote to taking your life for granted. Epictetus taught his students to practice this daily. Look at your loved ones and remind yourself they're mortal. Look at your possessions and acknowledge they're temporary. Look at your health and recognize it could change tomorrow. Not to create fear, but to create appreciation. He said, don't kiss your child, your wife, or your friend and say, I kiss a human being, for when it is taken away, you won't be disturbed. Harsh words, but profound wisdom. He's not saying don't love them. He's saying love them while remembering they're not permanent fixtures, so you appreciate them now instead of regretting later. Marcus Aurelius would wake up and remind himself, I might not see another sunrise. This could be my last day. Not morbid, clarifying. Suddenly that petty argument seems ridiculous. That grudge seems wasteful. That I'll do it later becomes I'll do it now. Here's the practical magic of this practice. When you regularly imagine losing something, you experience it fresh each time you still have it. Your morning coffee becomes a gift, not a routine. Your health becomes a privilege, not a given. Your relationships become treasures, not obligations. Seneca was huge on this. He'd write, the man who has anticipated the coming of troubles takes away their power when they arrive. By mentally rehearsing loss, you remove the shock factor. If you lose something you've already mentally prepared to lose, the impact is softened. You've pre-processed the grief. But here's where it gets really powerful for confidence. When you've imagined losing everything and found peace with that possibility, you become fearless in pursuing what you want. You take risks because you've already accepted potential loss. You speak truth because you've already imagined rejection. You create boldly because you've already visualized failure. This is how the Stoics could be so courageous. They weren't fearless, they were fear-prepared. Big difference. Modern application? Tonight, before bed, spend 5 minutes imagining your life without something you value. Your career, gone. How would you adapt? Your home, lost. Where would you go? Your ability to walk, taken. How would you still find meaning? Don't just think it, really feel it. Then open your eyes and realize you still have it. For now, don't waste it.
This practice also demolishes entitlement. When you recognize that everything you have could be gone tomorrow, you stop expecting the universe to maintain your comfort. You start seeing what you have as bonus gifts rather than deserved rights. Gratitude replaces complaint. Marcus Aurelius practiced this even with his empire. He'd remind himself that his power was temporary, his status borrowed, his life finite. It kept him humble and focused on using his position well while he had it. And here's the confidence connection. People who practice negative visualization aren't easily shaken by actual loss. When something does go wrong, their response is, "I knew this was possible. I'm prepared. What's next?" While everyone else is falling apart, they're adapting. That's power. There's also a hidden benefit. This practice makes you more present. When you truly understand that this conversation could be your last with this person, you actually listen. When you recognize this meal might be one of your final 1,000, you taste it. When you realize this day is irreplaceable, you live it. The Buddha taught something similar, impermanence. The Stoics just added the visualization component to make it practical. Meditate on loss to appreciate abundance. Imagine death to fully live. Contemplate endings to value beginnings. Your exercise this week. Pick one thing you love and imagine losing it. Really sit with that discomfort. Then, when you open your eyes and it's still there, notice how differently you experience it. That's negative visualization working. And while we're talking about preparation and perspective, the Stoics had one more practice that ties everything together, a daily ritual that builds wisdom faster than almost anything else.
Rule 10. Practice daily reflection. Listen up, because this might be the most practical rule yet, and it's the one habit that separated average Stoics from legendary ones. Every single night, Marcus Aurelius would journal. Not Instagram-worthy aesthetic journaling, raw, honest self-examination. He'd review his day, analyze his actions, question his motives, and plan improvements. That collection of journal entries became Meditations, one of the most influential texts in human history. He wasn't writing for publication. He was writing for self-improvement. We just get to benefit from it. The Stoics called this practice evening reflection or daily audit. Seneca would ask himself each night, what bad habit did I cure today? What vice did I resist? In what way am I better? Not self-punishment, self-awareness. Here's why this matters for confidence. You can't improve what you don't measure. You can't fix patterns you don't notice. You can't grow beyond behaviors you won't examine. Most people go through life on autopilot, repeating the same mistakes, wondering why nothing changes. The Stoics went through life as active participants, constantly adjusting, learning, evolving. Big difference in outcomes. Epictetus taught his students to review their days with specific questions. Where did I fail to do what I should? Where did I do what I shouldn't? What could I have done better? Notice, these aren't vague questions. They're surgical. They demand honest answers. But here's the key. This isn't about beating yourself up. It's about data collection. You're a scientist studying your own behavior. No judgment, just observation and adjustment. Marcus Aurelius would write things like, "Today I was impatient with my servant. This was wrong. I let external circumstances control my internal state. Tomorrow I will remember that his actions are his. My response is mine." See that? Problem identified, lesson extracted, improvement planned. No drama, just process. Modern equivalent. Imagine a professional athlete who never watched game footage. They'd never improve because they'd never see their mistakes. Daily reflection is your game footage. It shows you where you're strong and where you're leaking. Here's your simple framework straight from the Stoics. Evening questions. What did I do well today? Build confidence through recognition. What could I have done better? Identify growth areas. What did I learn? Extract wisdom from experience. What am I grateful for? maintain perspective. What will I focus on tomorrow? Plan with intention. 5 questions, 5 minutes, massive compound returns over time. Seneca would add another layer. He'd examine his motives. Why did I say that? Was I seeking truth or just trying to win? Why did I buy that? Was it need or ego? He understood that surface actions reveal deeper patterns, and those patterns determine destiny. Here's what happens when you practice daily reflection consistently. You start catching mistakes in real time. In the moment you're about to react emotionally, part of your brain says, "Wait, we've done this before. It doesn't end well." That's reflection creating real-time wisdom. You also build a relationship with your future self. When you know you'll be reviewing your day tonight, you make better choices now. It's like having an accountability partner who's actually you. Your future self is watching your present self, and your present self knows it. The confidence boost? You start trusting yourself more because you have evidence of your growth. You can literally look back through your reflections and see patterns breaking, behaviors improving, wisdom accumulating. That's not positive thinking, that's documented progress. But here's the warning. Reflection without action is just intellectual masturbation. The Stoics reflected to improve, not to overthink. They'd identify the pattern, create the solution, implement it tomorrow. Fast cycle time from awareness to action. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good person should be. Be one." Reflection shows you the gap between who you are and who you want to be. Action closes that gap. Both are essential. Your homework? Tonight before bed, answer those 5 questions. Just tonight. See how it feels. Then do it again tomorrow and the next day. Give it 30 days and watch how differently you apparate. The Stoics believed that an unexamined life wasn't worth living, not because life is bad, because examination makes it so much better. You're leaving growth on the table every day you skip this practice. And here's the final piece. Reflection builds humility and confidence simultaneously. Humility because you see your mistakes clearly. Confidence because you see your capability to fix them. That combination, that's wisdom. But knowing all these rules means nothing if you don't apply them. And this final rule, it's the one that brings everything together and separates people who talk about Stoicism from people who live it.
Rule 11. Act according to nature, including yours. All right, final boss level. This is the rule that makes everything else work, and it's both simple and profound. Live according to nature. The Stoics meant 2 things by this. Live according to the nature of the universe, reality, and live according to your nature, your purpose. Let's start with universal nature. The Stoics observed that the universe operates by certain principles. Change is constant, everything is connected, cause and effect are real, entropy exists. Fighting these truths is like fighting gravity. You'll lose every time. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Everything is in flux, even you. Every molecule in your body is being replaced constantly. Accept this." When you accept that change is natural, you stop resisting it. When you accept that challenge is part of existence, you stop asking, "Why me?" The answer was always, "Why not you?" Living according to universal nature means aligning with reality instead of demanding reality align with you. It means accepting that rain falls, people disappoint, plans fail, bodies age, and perfection doesn't exist. Not pessimism, realism. And there's tremendous confidence in being grounded in reality. But the second part, living according to your nature, this is where it gets personal. The Stoics believed every person has a unique nature, a role to play, a purpose to fulfill. Your job is to discover what that is and pursue it with everything you've got. Not what your parents want, not what's trendy, not what's easiest, what's yours. Epictetus said, "Don't try to fly before you have wings. Know your nature, develop your strengths, accept your limitations, and work within them towards excellence.
A fish trying to climb trees will always fail, not because fish are inadequate, but because that's not their nature. Here's the modern translation. Stop trying to be someone else's version of successful. Find your actual strengths, your genuine interests, your real values, and build a life around those. That's where confidence lives, in authenticity, not imitation. Marcus Aurelius was emperor, but he constantly reminded himself his nature wasn't to seek pleasure or avoid responsibility. His nature was to lead justly, think clearly, and serve others. That clarity of purpose kept him grounded when power could have corrupted him. Ask yourself honestly, what's your nature? Not what you wish it was, not what looks good on Instagram, what's actually true about you. Are you a builder or a maintainer? A creator or an optimizer, a leader or a specialist, introverted or extroverted, detail-oriented or big picture? Know thyself. Then, and this is crucial, stop fighting your nature. If you're naturally introverted, stop trying to be the loudest person in the room. Build a life that honors your need for depth over breadth. If you're naturally creative, stop forcing yourself into purely analytical roles. Find work that uses your actual wiring. Seneca wrote, "Most powerful is he who has himself in his own power." That power comes from self-knowledge and self-acceptance. When you know your nature and live according to it, you're not easily swayed by trends, peer pressure, or external expectations. Here's the confidence connection. When your actions align with your nature, there's no internal conflict. You're not pretending, performing, or forcing. You're expressing. That coherence between who you are and what you do creates unshakable confidence because it's authentic all the way down. But living according to your nature also means accepting responsibility for it. Your nature isn't an excuse, it's a framework. I'm naturally lazy isn't Stoic. I'm naturally inclined towards efficiency, so I need to build systems that work with that is Stoic. See the difference? The Stoics also believed in societal nature, that humans are social animals designed for community. So part of living according to nature is contributing to others, being useful, and participating in something larger than yourself. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself, "I was born to work with others." Practical application. This week, audit your life against your nature. Where are you swimming against your current? Where are you trying to be someone you're not? Where are you ignoring your strengths to fix weaknesses? Those misalignments are confidence killers. Fix them. And here's the beautiful part. When you live according to nature, both universal and personal, life gets simpler. You stop fighting reality. You stop comparing yourself to people with different natures. You stop chasing goals that don't align with who you actually are. The noise quiets. The path clears. Marcus Aurelius summed it up perfectly. Dig within. Within is the wellspring of good, and it is always ready to bubble up if you just dig. Your confidence isn't out there waiting to be found. It's in here waiting to be aligned. Your actions with your nature with reality, your reality with purpose. That's Stoicism. That's dangerous confidence. Not loud, not fragile, not dependent on external validation. Quiet, grounded, unshakable confidence that comes from knowing who you are, accepting what is, and acting accordingly. So there you have it. 11 Stoic rules that will make you dangerously confident if, and only if, you actually apply them. Let's do a rapid-fire recap because I know your attention span is hanging by a thread. React to nothing. Control your perceptions. Your emotions aren't facts. Other people's opinions are irrelevant. Focus only on what you control. Treat time like it's limited. Practice voluntary discomfort. Love your fate. Practice negative visualization. Reflect daily. Live according to nature. These aren't just philosophical ideas to nod along to and forget. These are operating systems for your mind, frameworks for decision-making, practices that compound over time into a completely different way of existing. The Stoics weren't armchair philosophers. They were emperors, slaves, politicians, and warriors who tested these principles in the absolute chaos of real life, and they worked.
2,000 years later, we're still talking about them because truth doesn't expire. Here's your challenge if you actually want the confidence you clicked this video for. Pick 3 rules, just 3. Commit to practicing them for 30 days, not perfectly, consistently. Track your progress. Notice the shifts. I guarantee you'll see changes not just in how you feel, but in how you move through the world. Because here's the secret nobody tells you. Confidence isn't something you find or build. It's something you uncover by removing everything that blocks it. Fear, insecurity, need for approval, victim mindset, reactivity, all of that is covering your natural confidence. The Stoics give you tools to remove those layers. What's underneath? Someone who doesn't need to announce their confidence because it radiates naturally. Someone who doesn't crumble when challenged because they're grounded in something deeper than circumstances. Someone who doesn't fear loss because they've already made peace with impermanence. Someone who doesn't need validation because they've validated themselves through consistent action aligned with their values. That person, that's who you're capable of becoming. The Stoics already gave you the blueprint. The only question is whether you'll use it or just add this video to your watch later list of wisdom you consume but never apply. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Go find it. And if this resonated with you, if you actually want to integrate this into your life, hit that subscribe button. We're going deep on practical philosophy every week. No fluff, just tools you can actually use. Drop a comment which rule hit hardest for you. I read every single one. Now close this video and go practice something, anything, because knowledge without action is just entertainment. Be dangerous, be confident, be stoic.